Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining Speakeasy Blues. So Speakeasy Blues is actually the #1 game from last month, from December, that I've played. I really appreciate this game. I really like it. I think it's a wonderful game. It's a couple of years old now, but that's not a problem. It is a 2 to 4 player game only, but it can go through relatively quickly. The whole idea is that you have dice, and there's 2 dice in each color. There are 6 of those dice, so 3 of the colors are on the board. 2 of the colors and 4 of the dice are sitting off the board. You need to choose one of the colors on the board, roll those dice into the group that are off the board, and then choose a color that's off the board and action those things as you put the dice back onto the board. And you'll do this every turn. The idea is that there are ways to get some extra wine, there's ways to get some influence with the various mafia families or with the police. There are ways to get some extra cards which enable you to do some bonus stuff. There's ways to get some music which gives you some other bonuses. It's a really fine game. The economy, while money is involved, the economy isn't money, it's about influence. So you are going to spend influence when you put the dice down for a large majority of the spots. Not all the spots, some of them are free, but quite a few of them you're going to spend influence to put dice down on them. And so you need to find ways to raise your influence in order to use your influence. On my game, or my first game of this, I found that I got into a space of I don't have any influence, which vastly, dramatically reduced the amount of spots that I could actually go to. And I had to work for a couple of turns to get out of that position. Getting the influence is so important, or having influence that you can spend is so important. Yes, there's points on that influence at the end of the game. As you get more and more influence, they are worth more and more points, and there's some negative points for being down the left-hand end of that track at the end of the game. So it's worthwhile having that up, but you need to spend the influence to do stuff through the game. There's these wine bottles or hooch, and they are used to play cards that are in your own tableau. And you have the ability to have 4 cards. This is actually a really interesting way of scoring things, because there's 2 packs of cards or 2 decks of cards that you're choosing from as 2 different positions on your board. But when you take them in, some of them have endgame scoring, and they will endgame score for any cards that have this picture. So it might be the wheel of a boat, for example, to say this is a boat, and there'll be a number next to that. And so if you have that card sitting on top of your stack of cards, it will score for every single one of those points. Whereas if it's buried in your deck, because you only have 4 spots that are able to be used, you need to continually be adding on top of stuff. So you've got to be really careful that the things that you're covering up are not things that you wish to use, but that you're also covering up with things that are going to enable you to get high points when we get to the end of the game. There's a real push-pull on that section of your board, but some of the things that go down this part of the board can be action spots, but if you use those action spots, they are far better than what's on the board, but they cost you wine to use them. And having enough of those wine bottles to be able to action these spots is actually really important. And so it becomes this kind of push-pull on, oh, do I need to get the wine? Do I need to get the music thing? There's so much going on that you can get stuck into this quirkiness of it. One of the games that I played, the other player didn't quite do the stuff, and so I ended up with a whole bunch of cards, but not really able to score any of those cards that they managed to get through the game. Simply because the card on top is the one that's going to say if this gets scored or not. You must show them on the end of the game that these ones are on the top. There are some cards that will enable you to move some other things around, but to get these cards that score points at the top by the end of the game is really important. There are also some cards moving through the game that give you some points for various icons at the end of the game. There's so many different things and different elements that get scored. And I do fear that some of the games that have been coming through previously, or recently, should I say, are giving points for this and that and that, and there's just points all over the place. But tracking where those points are can be a bit exhausting. So it's not necessarily the best thing. It's not the worst thing either. I don't mind points coming in from all over the place, but having points coming from here and here and here and here, so that you have to really think about that element of it in order to do well with this game, can potentially be a little bit of a drawback. Money is only really used to re-roll the dice. So if you don't like anything in the pool, you can spend the money to re-roll everything that's in that dice pool before it's played. I think it's everything. It might just be the two. I can't remember. It doesn't really matter too much, but you can spend money to re-roll some dice. Or you could spend money to re-deal out the 4 cards that you're choosing from this deck, or the 4 cards from this deck. Those are kind of the only things that money really gets spent on. So having money isn't necessarily the best way to go with this game. I fear that a lot of people look at games and go, okay, what can I do that's going to make me money? And they continually look at that money-making thing. But the actual usage of the money isn't really there on this one. It's far more important to get that reputation and push your reputation up than to get the money. Some of the cards enable you to spend money to get reputation. They are really good cards to get. Anything that will enable you to turn things into reputation or build up that reputation is so important. So that doesn't run out. The art on this game is really good. I really appreciate the games like this that are set in a period where the art works right for the period. It's really wonderful. I really appreciate it. I think a lot of that style of art. As a musician, this type of game does talk to me. Of course, it's kind of, you get bonuses for doing the music thing. I really appreciate that. There's a spot in the middle where you can put a die to get the things on your card. So this is one of the ways that you can up your influence. If you've got cards that give you influence, and there's just a little picture of a plus sign. If you've got cards that give you that influence, this is how you'll push it up. The only other thing with this one is the back page of the rulebook has an explanation of what symbols mean, but there's a lot of cards that are combinations of symbols, or I found that on playing this game, I had to be in the back of that book really, really often. Pretty much every time I was looking at new cards, just to kind of get my head around, oh, that's what this symbol means, and that's what this symbol means. There's so much going on. It's not to the stage of Race for the Galaxy, but it's pushing it. There's little nuance between you, other players. There's symbols that are you taking stuff and doing this stuff, and then there's combinations of symbols, and all of this stuff. It's really important to have your head around it and kind of be pushing forward on knowing what's coming in and what you're looking at. But it can slow the game down really dramatically on the, what's this mean? Because each time you go for those cards, that section of the board, you're getting 3 cards, and you have to choose one of the 3 cards. This is the revolver symbol area of the board. But you need to make a decision between the 3 cards, because you're keeping one of them, but you need to understand what the card does to be able to make that decision. And that's actually not the easiest thing in the world, because you need to understand the iconography. And there's so much iconography going on that you kind of, you look at the card and you go, okay, where's the rulebook? Where's the back page? Okay, yeah, okay, I've got it. Okay, I know what that one is. What's the next one? And it takes time to get an understanding of that, or to really get on top of it. I do wonder if you're playing with 4 players, if the next player just went when you took those cards, if you would have made your decision by the time the game got around to you again. It's just a thought that about this iconography. Look, I think I will leave it there. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you wish to be gamesplained, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Gamesplainer to keep up to date with the games that I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.